me scared, you want me weak, you want me brain dead and asleep. You want us trapped while you all laugh behind the scenes. You want us sick, you think we're dumb. You want us blind and you want us drunk. You want us poor while you get more of everything. But you don't get to tell me what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell me what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb. You want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shot and you want us bought in every way. You want our minds, you want our time. You want us framed up in your crime. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. 'Cause you're just
I'm gonna end it before it gets back into the theme so that you all have to go listen to it. It's on. The song is 5 Times August. Liars, Cheats, and Thieves. I may have gotten the title wrong. Go on Apple Music, in as much as anybody might hate it, and make it a #1 hit. I'm going to tinker so that I'm going to have like the countdown intro to the show is going to be that, which I have the license authorization to use from Brad, the singer from 5 Times August, and a countdown timer before getting into the show. I think that's going to be the new intro. And then we're going to get into a couple of videos where I will go and rant and rage against the dying of the light people. Good afternoon. I don't know if you're supposed to say Happy Veterans Day or have a meaningful Veterans Day, but thank our veterans for their sacrifice. In Canada, it's called Remembrance Day, not Memorial Day, because I'm still an idiot. Remembrance Day in Canada, Veterans Day in America. A bunch of our neighbors serve. I know that one of our neighbors who served had a very dangerous job in the Navy, and my kid is going to go over and thank him for his service later this afternoon when he gets there. We've got a good show today, people. We've got Artur Pawlowski, and if you don't know who he is, I'm going to pull up the video that went viral and made him famous. And at the time, I was like, yeah, this is going to make him famous. Not necessarily for reasons that are going to be good for one's blood pressure. Artur was jailed, solitary, treated like an absolute political prisoner that he was, and has now written a book, which he's going to talk about, but he's going to come on in a second. I wanted to start, before we get into it, where is it? Let's start with this. I want to start with this. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Nah, you know what? No. We're not going to start with that. George Conway, we're going to start with in a second, because he's the biggest buffoon on the planet. They're licking their wounds and doing their not their victory lap, but the opposite of that, their defeat lap, trying to say, oh, where did things go wrong? And they're not understanding where things went wrong. We're going to talk about it afterwards. You know what? But I guess we're going to start with now. Here's George Conway. Listen to this.
But the disturbing thing about this election isn't new. Right? And that's sort of maybe it's why I'm not taking this as badly as people might think. It's like the problem was we always had 40 or 45% or whatever the number is, people who are going to vote for him anyway. They may tell you, oh, it's the price of eggs, but if it weren't that, it would be something else. Some of those. It's
the price of eggs. If they didn't have legitimate grievances that are impacting their daily lives, they would find another legitimate grievance that's impacting their daily lives to say we're going to vote for the guy who was not negatively impacting our daily lives when he was the president. The tyrant who was never the tyrant when he was the president, who actually bettered our lives.
I think there are legitimate voters. There are voters who are actual swing voters who have been negatively affected by inflation. But let's set that aside. Among the 40-something% who are going to be there no matter what, they consume an information diet that is self-selected in a way that that is addictive, and they.
I'm gonna. Can you believe it? It's the iron law of woke projection. This lefty idiot who's on a channel right now, MSNBC, that has in the backdrop the the banner resisting Trump is accusing Republicans who have access to a broader spectrum of news than anybody on earth. He's accusing them of being in the self-serving, vicious cycle of a media silo, where the Republicans against Trump are saying that it's true. Republicans are detached from reality. They don't know basic things about what Trump has done. That's wild ignorance. We're going to get into that in a second, because the reality is that Democrats have no idea about what Kamala has done, and they learned it because the Republicans spent a whole hell of a lot of money informing people that Kamala, has a very, very rich history of endorsing and using taxpayer funds to promote transgender surgery to men who are in women's prisons. It's nuts. We'll get there. All right. But before we get anywhere, and before we get Artur Pawlowski in the house, I'm going to thank two of our sponsors for today's show. One is Be Naked. Speaking of being a man, people, they say that evolution has gone soft, that men have traded their strength for comfort. But if you're not about to let your instincts go dull, it's time to fuel up with something raw, real, and primal: naked organs. We're talking pure bison, liver, kidney, heart, and testicles. Some of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. You want to see a funny video? Go watch my Viva Frei eats a bison testicle. I tried to cook it. You're better off getting it in the supplement form from Be Naked. Bison liver alone packs up to 3 times more vitamin A than muscle meat, along with higher levels of B12, iron, and folate, all essential for energy, immunity, and health, keeping you sharp and in shape. And the best part, you get all these powerful nutrients in a form that's easy to take in a beautiful little pill. Head over to BeNaked.com. Use promo code Viva for 15% off. Time to silence the noise, reclaim your power, and get back to being unstoppable. BeNaked.com, promo code Viva for 15% off. And while you're having strong bison organs, have some strong coffee as well. 1775. These are both Rumble partners, by the way. So when you support these companies, you're supporting the parallel economy and supporting companies that actually respect you as a consumer, you as an individual, you as an American. Ever check the back of your creamer packaging? Spoiler alert, it's a chemistry set. Oils, sugars, thickeners with no dairy in sight. If that's how you're starting your day, it's time to upgrade to 1775's protein creamer. This is the real deal. 10 grams of whey protein to fuel your energy, support muscle recovery, and keep you feeling fuller longer without the sugar and the sugar crash. 0 sugar, 0 fat, 50 calories. It's non-GMO, naturally flavored with vanilla, and proudly American fuel for people who don't settle. Pair it with 1775's single origin coffee, and you're not just waking up, you're fueling up with purpose. Pure, high quality, unapologetic. This blend is crafted for mornings that match your mindset. Go to 1775coffee.com. Hold on, let me make sure I got the right. I always get 1775coffee.com. Promo code Viva, 15% off. Make your mornings as strong as your beliefs. 1775coffee.com. Now, speaking of a man who probably didn't get good coffee for a very, very long time, Artur Pawlowski. If you don't know who he is, welcome to the channel, because it means you're new. You all love him. Artur, you ready to come on? 3, 2, 1. Sir. They don't have Americans don't do the poppy flower like Canadians do.
Yeah, well, they celebrate this day a little bit differently, but nevertheless, it's a big day, and we should remember the moment you forget, and I think that's our biggest problem, the moment you forget that what we have right now has been bought, literally bought with the precious blood of patriots that walked before us, it's over. I said this thousands of times, that what we are witnessing right now is a repetition of history. We simply cannot afford to forget. And we have forgotten in the West because we were too comfortable, because we were too apathetic, uninterested, minding our own business, and the enemy just crept in and look at the havoc they have unleashed on us. So I remember yesterday we had a special service in the morning, special service in the afternoon with the homeless people. As you know, I've never stopped feeding thousands of people on the streets 3 times a week. For 25 years, we're taking care of the homeless people. And we played the songs, we remembered, we prayed, and we told the people, which I'm saying it to you and your audience, please do not forget that they were people before us. They were willing to go all the way, so we and our children can live in a free and democratic society in our beloved Canada and, of course, USA.
Taken for granted, everybody knows you, but just don't need to get into the detail we've done in our previous streams. Give it 30,000 feet. Where are you from, Artur? How'd you end up in Canada? And then we're going to get into the updates on the political persecution that you've endured in the free Canada, the so-called free Canada?
Well, I grew up in hell. I mean, literally, I'm not exaggerating. Communism behind the Iron Curtain in Poland that was raped, pillaged, and attacked by the Germans and the Russians and back and forth. And of course, I grew up under the boots of the Soviets, the communists and the socialists, one of the most godliest ideologies on earth. And I escaped. First my father a year before us, and then we were denied visa 3 times. We escaped on a boat through Turkey, out of all the places, Istanbul, and then to Athens, Greece. We waited 5 years. We did the right way. We waited 5 years for our immigration papers. We went through medical. We had an interview at Canadian Embassy in Athens, and we came to Canada for one purpose. Our El Dorado was in Greece. We had a very successful businesses. We came to Canada for freedom. And that very thing has been denied to us for a number of years. This is my 19th year of fighting with the wannabe pharaohs.
The expression is strong men create strong times. Strong times create for goodness sake, I'm going to screw it up. Strong times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and then the cycle continues.
Yeah.
And it's like an iteration of the 3 generations from rice paddy to rice paddy, where you have people who fought, died. Then you have the people who were the beneficiaries of that, but lived in the shadow of it and appreciated it. And then you have the 3rd generation that's sufficiently far removed that they say they don't even know that a sacrifice was made. So when they say, yeah, sure, I'll give up some rights to the government, they don't know what people actually fought for, because they didn't fight for it themselves. They take for granted it's always like this, it's always been like this, and it's always going to be like this. And then lo and behold, someone is being locked up in jail because they're carrying out church services in a time where the government says you can't exercise religion. Tell us how your trouble started with the Canadian government.
Well, actually, surprisingly, it started with something that if you would say that to me a day before, I would absolutely say you're nuts, you're crazy. I have been feeding people, taking them off the streets since 1999. I know that makes us old, my friend, since 1999. And as long as our ministry was very small and not very effective, I mean, we saved lives, but not in a big scale until 2005. 2005, we took hundreds of people off the streets. We had over 250 volunteers. And that's where the Canadian government showed up. And I was shocked. They said, you're not allowed to congregate. You're not allowed to preach. The name of Jesus is offensive. You are not. Believe it or not, there is a law to this day that says giving free goods and services is prohibited by law. So when I pray for you as a pastor in public, I just committed a crime. When I give you a sandwich, if I give a sandwich to a dying kid, I just committed a crime. I could not believe it. Also, they told me distribution of printed material is also prohibited by law. Bibles, you cannot give them away for free. Gospel tracts, you cannot give them. I said, like, what, are you crazy? This is Canada, not Poland under the boots of the Soviets. So I decided to oppose them. That created 10 years international news. I was in the news every second evening. 10 years, over 100 court cases, over 300 citations at that time, multiple arrests. I became the first Canadian to be arrested for publicly reading Bible. No amplification. I was told that the Bible is offensive, the name of Jesus is offensive, and therefore it's prohibited by law. I became a prisoner. I faced a year of imprisonment. I won every single fight, Court of Appeals, QB, Queen's Bench, provincial, you name it, criminal charges. I won in 2015. They left me be for a few years. And as you remember, I became the first Canadian. I think they looked for an excuse and they have found it. I became the first Canadian to get their, pandemic ticket. And they did a big story about it. The chief of police was interviewed. I was called a troublemaker, lawbreaker, grandma killer, grandpa destroyer, community destroyer, bloody murderer, compared to Adolf Hitler, all those different things. But you got to remember, my trouble always started with me feeding the poor. That's all. I always get in trouble for feeding people. I could not believe it, and giving them messages of hope. So that's how it started with me. The Get Out video that you referred, that came a year later. For a year, they were hunting me down, literally hunting me down on the streets of Calgary for feeding the poor. My record at that time was when the Canadian government forbade us to have Christmas, singing, remember, Lord's Supper, and I had over 20 police officers, over 40 police vehicles. We had chief of police, anti-terrorist, SWAT team at our church service, and I end up with 15 tickets for doing, according to them, the unthinkable. I hired carolers. Singing was prohibited by law, and I did the Christmas festival for the poor. And we gave hundreds of gifts away. We had AAA steaks, barbecues. Then the 2021 shows up. They come to our church building, and I'm telling you, I had nothing else to give them. I reasoned with them. I talked with them. I met with them. This is not like Artur Pawlowski woke up one day and said, "You Nazis, get out." No, I've done everything as a Canadian I could. I had meetings with them. I reasoned. I said, "You don't make any sense. If you forbid me to feed those people, what do you think is going to happen to 15 to 20,000 different individuals facing homelessness? You're shutting down shelters, shutting down soup kitchens. You're going to create crime. People will die. They will attack people. They will break into houses, into cars, into grocery stores. Let me feed them. Let me feed them." No. No. And of course, at the same time, you got politicians partying at the Sky Palace premiere with his ministers, double standards, one law for me, one law for thee. So when I saw all of that uncovering, I said, never again I will negotiate with you people, because you're liars, you're manipulators, and you're acting just like Gestapo. Gestapo means political police. When they entered our church, I had nothing else to give them except get out.
It is amazing, because when we talked about it during the last interview, the homeless initiative by the government is a money laundering industry, and they don't like seeing people who are more effective than them, and they don't want people actually solving the problem, because then they don't get to allocate whatever funds to combating homelessness, so they can all dip in and siphon and whatever. The more homeless, the better it is for the actual government, like we see in California. I didn't know you until the video. Let me bring it up. I think everybody will have seen it and knows this. This is the shortened version. I won't play the whole thing.
Please get out. Get out of this property. Immediately get out. Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately. I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out. Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant. Out. 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 Out of this property immediately. Out.
And eventually, after having gotten the message, they back out. This was Alberta Health Services coming to. Was it Easter week? Was it within? It was prior to Easter.
This was the holiest time in a year. It was a Passover, so it's Easter weekend, and they came with the police officers, of course, armed with pistols. They came with bylaw services and some other undercover people. And you have to understand that they broke a section of the Criminal Code of Canada, Section 176, 1, 2, and 3. It's illegal. What they were doing was illegal from the beginning to the end. And I know the law. I studied the law. Of course, I have a legal team throughout of this ordeal. And what the authorities were doing was completely against the Criminal Code, Constitution, Charter of Rights and Freedoms. But as you know, we have highly corrupted judges that have been helping those criminals, those gangsters in uniform, to break the law. They're acting just like gangsters from mafia. They're the muscle, and unfortunately are not thinking, but only obeying their whatever wishes of the politicians. And we have what we have. And all of that is included in a book, because I have included the judges, the names, political fixers. As you remember, when I was on your show last time, there were attempted briberies for about 10 years from the Premier of Alberta directly. I was offered millions of dollars to shut my mouth. I was offered a guaranteed seat at the legislature. If I keep my mouth shut, I was offered a guaranteed a government job for $250,000. And then after the attempted bribery, when they realized Artur Pawlowski is not for sale, they started to send people that are called political fixers. All of that story, the imprisonment, every day what happened to me in prison, solitary confinement, metal cages. Again, remember, all of those charges were for me doing my job as a pastor, giving messages of hope. Again, remember, think about it. My latest arrest was for a sermon, 90 minutes, chit chat, a speech to the hurting Canadians, farmers and truckers, when I told them 3 times, no guns. This is a peaceful solidarity style uprising. What that means is a general strike. I said to them, there's more of us than of them. They don't have enough police officers. If the people, if we say no more, we're not going to cooperate, and if they would just refuse to work for them, then this whole thing would collapse. However, the Crown prosecutor, which is included in a book, Stephen Johnston.
Show us the book. We got to see the book. I'm going to put the link up afterwards.
So it's called
Lions Do Not
Bow. It has become a bestseller last week on Amazon.com and Amazon.ca. It was the #1 for a number of weeks. It has been released today, and I find this fascinating that it's Remembrance Day, it's the Veterans Day, and the book is being released because the whole book is all about freedom. It's about standing, not bowing. When I was in Africa, and that's where the title comes from, and by the way, this picture is an actual arrest by anti-terrorists. I was arrested in the rain for kicking them out. As you remember, I was arrested with my brother David.
Is that one on the tarmac or was that one on the highway?
That was on the highway. Well, I was arrested on the highway many times. I was arrested 16 times, detained many times. So this one arrest was after I kicked them out. They waited. They brought anti-terrorists. They stopped me in the middle of the highway, and I was arrested with my brother David. We spent 3 days and 2 nights on concrete, completely illegal. And as you remember, we were charged with nonsense charges, but the judge, Adam Germain, commanded us to repeat government narrative, the compelled speech, which has never been done in Canadian history. He ordered us to repeat the CNN, CBC lies about this whole lie. And he commanded us. He says, if you don't say it, you will be arrested for the contempt of court order. Just Soviet style, North Korea, China style of dealing with political dissidents. And of course, as you know, when I was sent to prison, stripped naked, interrogated for hours, I was arrested by every force in the land, anti-terrorist, SWAT team with cameras, undercover police, Calgary police uniform. They blocked the whole street in front of my house. I was arrested by detectives, interrogated, stripped naked, sent to solitary confinement, metal cages. They kept me in metal cages. I still, to this day, I've done hundreds of interviews. I wrote a book about this ordeal. And when I'm sharing this with you, I still cannot believe that in Canada, yes, in Poland, that was normal. In Russia, that's normal. In China, that's normal. But Canada?
Well, back at all the way up to the beginning, Alberta Health Services the video that went viral. Once it gets on Fox News, you know that it's gotten international attention. And I made the joke at the time is, you said, come back with a warrant. They were going to come back with the warrant, and they did come back with a warrant. The first time you were arrested for the COVID stuff, was it in relation to the church service or was it relation to something else?
No, that was in relation to exactly me kicking them out. So what they did, they had off-camera illegal meeting with the judge without, it's called ex parte.
Without you being notified or being present or your attorneys. And typically the reason they do it is urgency, flight risk, destruction of evidence. They had to do it in your case. Just to explain what ex parte means. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, which is completely ridiculous because I'm not hiding. I have never been hiding. I'm very easy to find. I'm feeding people 3 times a week. I have services in a church 3 times a week. So 6 times a week, they know exactly where I am. They know where I live. I have never been hiding, but they did it for the purpose so our lawyers would not be able to fight this because it was ridiculous. It was illegal. And David Gates, I don't know if he's related to the Bill Gates, the devil of America, but David Gates of Alberta gave them the power to enter our church without, with whomever they wanted to, and anytime they wish. So they brought anti-terrorists, and they thought that now surely I'm going to bow. But I told them, get out again. So they showed up again with anti-terrorists. I told them, get out again. And they said, you have to arrest me. So what happened was they came with another judge's order. This man, and all of that is included in a book, the names and how it was done, what happened in the background story of Get Out, what happened in prison every single day, Psych Ward, Max Spot for the most dangerous terrorists, the trials, my speeches, my American tour, all of that is in the book.
One of your anecdotes. with me about being in not solitary, but being in a prison with a schizophrenic guy who was a violent guy who had sharp devices where you were not allowed to have a pencil, and this guy had pencils and pens. And I joked with you that I said they wanted you to get killed in prison.
That's right. Actually, this is not exaggeration. And again, it's included in a book. This book has been already confiscated by the Canadian government 3 times. And now they are stopping my book from entering Canada. So that's how scared those people are about what I have written in a book. And of course, it's the truth and nothing but the truth. I'm not shying away from controversy. I'm naming those people, the Crown prosecutors, the judges, the whole 9 yards. But you're right. 5 different inmates already testified to my lawyers that the guards were giving them incentives to murder me in prison. So they wanted to use the hands of the inmates to eliminate me, as they called it. The political fixers that called me, they called it, it has been decided that you are being eliminated from the board game. You got to remember, they lit my house on fire. Those are not idle threats. They lit my house on fire in the middle of the night with my 3 children sleeping. They unscrewed tire in my pickup truck. They lit our church on fire, vandalized our church for 3 months every single week. They burned down our children's baths outside. I was physically attacked, guns, Antifa in my backyard. I mean, this was a serious attack on my life. When I was kidnapped, I was literally kidnapped by the sheriffs without the knowledge of my family, without the knowledge of my legal team, taken hundreds of miles away to Edmonton. They put me in a max spot. And it's in a book. In a book, I'm including, because I know when I share the story, some people say like, my God, you are exaggerating. It never happened. So I have included documents that I received in prison. And I have all the documents. Those are the pieces of paper I was writing on. Those are the request forms in prison that the prisoners were giving me so I can keep writing, because the government would not give me even paper to write. So this document states that I am considered the most dangerous. So they put me in max spot for the most dangerous terrorists in the country. Freezing conditions, denied a blanket, laughed in my face that at least I have fresh air. I was only allowed to leave my cell, hundreds of cells empty, guarded by 3 guards, only 30 minutes out. And that's where I said my goodbyes to my wife, because I realized I'm not coming out alive of this. They have decided to murder me. They will say I had heart attack. They will say I just died in my sleep, whatever, because it's freezing conditions. And that's where the miracle started to happen, because my wife calls the lawyers. Lawyers send a letter to the judge. The judge was a decent judge, a good judge, and she scared them. And I was taken from MaxPod to a psych ward without the evaluation of the doctors, without even the knowledge of Alberta Health Services. As you know, I'm suing them. I filed one of the biggest lawsuits in the history of this country, but it's completely illegal. So when they put me in a cell with a schizophrenic that murdered his brother with a machete, chopped him to pieces, they were hoping that in one of his episodes that he sees, pink elephants, he's going to grab a pen or a pencil and will murder me. So when I walked in, I looked at his little table and he had about 15 or maybe more pencils and pens. And I said, I am apparently considered the most dangerous inmate in the country. I cannot have a pen. And he looks at me and says, hey, and he grabs his pen and says, you can have mine. So I got a pen from a guy that murdered his brother. So I kept writing. And this book, it's a fascinating document, because it was taken by the Canadian government 3 times. 3 times we had to really fight for it. We got it back, and my lawyer smuggled it out of the prison and give it to my wife. We sent it to the American publishers, and they were brave enough to publish the whole story. Attempted bribery is what those people did to me in prison, outside of prison, a year and a half on house arrest, political fixers, judges, Crown prosecutors, the lies of Stephen Johnston, the Crown prosecutor, which, by the way, he is featured. I was interviewed by a reporter, and he said to me, are you not afraid to show that's Crown prosecutor Stephen Johnston? Are you not afraid to show his face, because if you Google Stephen Johnston, try it. If you Google this guy, there is absolutely no face. You cannot find this guy. He's hiding. He even was escorted by guards everywhere he showed up. He waited for the crowds to go. He hides his face. He doesn't want the people to know how he looks like. And I said to the reporter, and I'm going to say it to you as well, listen, it's thanks to him, because he said I am super dangerous. They kept me in solitary confinement, and only in solitary confinement I was able to write the book.
Which one is he?
Well,
the funny thing is, you put in Steve Johnson, Crown Prosecutor, in images, and the first ones that come up are you. That's Jason Levine down there. I don't know which one is, and that's you again. Which do you see him here?
No, I don't see him here.
Maybe this guy? No, that's
No.
Stephen Buck. All right,
No.
that's weird. It's interesting.
Yeah, but I said to the reporter, listen, if this man wanted really to become part of my life, and he has become a big part of my life for over 3 years, well, he deserves the credit. So I'm not hiding my face. You're not hiding your face.
He's a Crown prosecutor. He's a public servant, not to be in a demeaning way. He's a Crown prosecutor. You're entitled to know who he is.
That's right. I think, this is the book. That's why I decided to include all of this, the whole story. In the book, it's a big story. It's 500 pages, pictures, and about 496 pages of write-ups, because I wanted people to understand Artur Pawlowski. I wanted people to know why I called those nice officers Nazis, why I called them the Gestapo, why I was so upset about what I have been observing in the past few years. Because you got to remember, I have seen this movie before. I grew up in hell, and hell arrived in Canada. And people must understand that what we're facing right now, witnessing right now, is a repetition of history. So I wanted people to know there's a little bit of history, what a show trial means, right? I can tell you show trial, you know what that means, but most of the people do not know. I have seen show trials.
First of all, this is the first book that you've written?
That's right. That's the first one.
Amazing. There's another book by an Artur Pawlowski, but it's Environmental Engineering and Sustainable Development, and the other one is, so I don't think that's the same Artur. It's amazing. People don't appreciate what was in that court order at the time we were covering it. So anyone who's been around for years knows this. This is from when you were ordered to say certain things when exercising your First Amendment rights, which you don't have in Canada, but freedom of speech. This is literally what was in the judgment that was appealed from and subsequently overturned. The final term of his probation shall be that when exercising his right of free speech and against the Alberta Health Services orders, yada, 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 he must indicate in his communication the following. This is what they wanted you to say and write when criticizing Alberta Health Services. I am also aware that the views I am expressing to you on this occasion may not be views held by the majority of medical experts in Alberta. While I may disagree with them, I am obliged to inform you that the majority of medical experts favor social distancing, mask wearing, that didn't age well, and avoiding large crowds to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Most medical experts also support participation in a vaccination program unless for a valid medical or religious reason you cannot be vaccinated. Vaccinations have been shown to statistically to save lives and to reduce the severity of COVID-19 symptoms. They wanted you to be compelled to say that every time.
There goes my freedom of expression.
No, you see, Artur, when you're exercising it, you are also required to spout government propaganda. That's total freedom.
You know what I did? You remember what I did? It's in a book. It's hilarious, actually. From the perspective of time, a lot of things that I have penned down are kind of funny. My wife read it and she says, it's kind of funny. You had funny moments. Well, they did not feel funny at that moment. So, for example, when the Adam Germain, that crooked judge, declared that I must lie to the people before I can tell them the truth, I grabbed the microphone and I said, Judge, I want you to know I will never, ever obey your order. So if you want to arrest me for the, contempt of court, I'm not running away. You can bring your sheriffs. But I want you to know, Artur Pawlowski will never lie to the people. My brother David, and reporters are there. They're live streaming, the whole 9 yards. It's being broadcasted there. And there is a big crowd of people, protesters, against this atrocity. My brother David grabs a microphone and he says, Judge, I want you also to hear me. You can take your order and you can shove it where the sun doesn't shine. And I look at my brother David and I said, I think you've just killed us. I think I did my best as a diplomat, but you just nailed it. And we waited for them to come and arrest us. Immediately after this order, I grabbed the microphone and I told the people that this is all a big fat lie, and the people should never take that experimental job because it will hurt them. Why I was so focused? Because you got to remember, I traveled 4 months with the most brilliant, amazing doctors, scientists, biologists on the planet Earth. I spent time with the best of the best, and every single time I was speaking from the same at the same conference, at the same church service. Well, they're coming for us. The jets.
Okay. That's probably a Memorial Day flyover. That sounded like a jet. That wasn't a plane.
Yeah, it's probably for the memorial. So when I spent this time, I would ask those experts, because I'm not a doctor. So what do I know, right? I can tell you theology, I can preach the gospel, I can feed the poor. I know how to feed thousands of people because we feed thousands of people every week. But what do I know about biology? So I asked them, I said, doctor, please tell me what is going to happen to human body if they will keep taking this. Every single one of them said, Art, and they looked that into my eyes, said, Art, millions of people are going to die. Millions. Every single one of them said that. And of course, now we have the data. We know that millions actually have died and many millions will die as well. So as a clergy, as a pastor, as a person that prays for healings and helps people, how could I lie to them? Because what? I would face 6 months of imprisonment. Of course, eventually the wrath of the Canadian government came. I was part of the Freedom Convoy, which to this day is one of the most beautiful moments in my life on the Canadian soil. The Crown prosecutor demanded that I would say sorry. He says, if you say you're sorry, you can go home. And I said, never, ever you will hear from Artur Pawlowski that I'm sorry. I'm super proud that I was able to be part of this greatest civil rights movement in the history of my country. And I was in Coutts at the border. I conducted church services for the hurting Canadians. I did Lord's Supper. We were singing hymns, national anthem. And of course, I was imprisoned, spent 50 days in prison, released, a year and a half on house arrest. And then eventually I was found guilty by the Gordon Crinky. Gordon Crinky said that everyone that took part of the Freedom Convoy is a criminal. That's what he said. And therefore, because I encouraged them to stay, I'm a criminal as well.
You were ultimately convicted on one of the mischief charges for having given the speech which demanded a peaceful non-compliance, so to speak.
That's right.
You were convicted on the mischief, sentenced to time served. It wasn't like you were acquitted. So people saying sue for malicious prosecution. Good luck when you've been found guilty under this corrupt system. And your ultimate sentence was what? Like it was 70 days, which you had already served.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more complicated. That's why, people, if they're interested in the whole story, get the book, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. It's live today. Why? Because what they did, they're clever manipulators. They charged me with terrorism. So they said during the bail hearings that, by the way, this blue book on the top is a fraud. This is a thief that stole portion of my book.
Oh, really?
And using it as I wrote it.
Let's not give that person any publicity. Get the original Artur. Is Artur like, it might be a stupid question? Is it on audiobook as well?
It will be. It will be. I was asked to record it, so I will be recording it. They asked me to read it with my Polish accent, so I'm going to do that.
Absolutely, it's going to give it. You have a distinct voice, and it needs to be read in your voice. It needs to be you who reads it.
And, going back to the story, what happened, they charged me with interfering with the crucial infrastructure under the Defense Act. I became the first Canadian ever to be charged with it. And, which people don't know, I was convicted of terrorism. I was convicted by Gordon Crinky for inciting mischief, breach of release order, and also terrorism. However, a month later, Stephen Johnston, that pathological liar that lied to every judge during my case, he withdrew the charge because we challenged it. We challenged the validity of that charge through the Constitution, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So he withdraws the charge and leaves the criminal 10 years of imprisonment for inciting mischief. Ultimately, the judge sentenced me and said, I can send you to prison for 12 and a half years. And then I don't know what happened. We don't know to this day what happened. He looked at his phone And he looked at us and says, I have to consult this verdict with others. He leaves us in the room for sentencing, leaves for an hour, comes back and says, time served. So whoever he was consulting with, that person realized they are turning me into a martyr. And because of the international attention on the story, they just didn't want to have this heat. And I walked out of the court, a free man with a criminal conviction. We appealed this. And last September, we had our lawyers arguing. And 3 weeks ago, I was found, they upheld the conviction. And we are appealing it to the Supreme Court of Canada. So the fight is not over. And I told them, I'll fight you until Jesus comes back. You picked on the wrong guy. I'm a Polish immigrant. And I'm telling you about the Polish people. We are the stubbornest donkeys on earth. I think we are all donkeys in one. You should never pick up a fight with a Polish immigrant, and definitely not with Artur Pawlowski. Many people came to me and they said, are you willing to die on this hill? And I would look at them and say, like, this is the hill. This is the hill. If we are to die on any hill, this is the hill to die on, because they are murdering us. They are stealing everything from us. They're telling us you will own nothing and you will be happy, while they are accumulating more and more and more. Bill Gates has become the #1 landowner in the United States. They drive SUVs, they fly private jets, they eat the most expensive steaks, and they're telling you you will own nothing and you will be happy. Listen, are you paying attention to what is going on? They are the wanna-be pharaohs turning us into slaves. And there is more of us than of them. We must rise up, especially today. This is the most relevant message. Polish people are celebrating Independence Day. Poland disappeared from the map of the world for 123 years. We were divided by 3 countries. Today, 11th of November, we are not only celebrating the Remembrance Day in Canada or the Veterans Day in the United States. Polish people are celebrating independence from those nations that stole what's rightfully ours. And this is a repetition of history. They want to do the same thing today. So I'm kind of giving a lot of history here. There are mini sermons there, but it's not a religious book. This is a story. What happened day by day in solitary confinement, the guards, the conversations, the inmates, when I was kidnapped, the sheriffs, all different things that happened, the courts, the media narration, I included some of my speeches that enraged, or I guess they've decided I have become the most dangerous person in this country. Also, you got to remember why Solidarity movement was so successful and what the villains learned from it. Why did they shut down churches? Why did they prevented people from going to town hall meetings? Because they know history. And during the revolutions, during the Solidarity movement, people were meeting in churches. People were meeting in town halls. People were meeting in their homes. So all of those things they've decided are too dangerous for us to allow people to have. Because when people are isolated, segregated, separated, and without hope, the only hope they have is the government. Government. That's what the whole thing is all about. They want you to trust and believe in government, not in anything else. Don't believe your brother. Don't believe your wife. Don't believe your children. Don't believe your friends. Don't believe your church. Believe the government. And we know, you know, I know, and I hope that many millions of others will also know that we are dealing with the most corrupted mafia type, enterprise in the history of our country. Those people hate you and they want to rob you. Actually, they are robbing you as you speak. So the book has a lot of remedies, how to fight. What are you to do when this is happening to you? And I just want to tell you a little bit about the lions, because I started it, I didn't finish. When I was working in Africa, we built orphanages, medical clinics, churches in Kenya. I was able to see lions in the savannah roaming. And I was absolutely shocked. You see lions in a zoo, but that's nothing. When you go there and you walk when the lions are walking and you see them in their own environment, I could not believe it. The lions showed up and the monkeys stopped fighting or, moving. The birds stop chirping. It's like the whole nature realizes the king has arrived. They walk with this majesty I have never seen before. And they kind of show up and they tell you this. We own this place. This is our joint, if you will. The lionesses with their majestic, beautiful bodies and how they walk and their heads tall, and the nature realizes the king has arrived. And God spoke to me at that moment and says, I want you to walk like those lions. Know who you are. Know who I am. Lions do not bow before the hyenas. I saw the hyenas, and I'm telling you, lions will look at them. It's like with the disgust. Liberals, NDPers, the demon rats, as I call them, they're like those hyenas, pillaging, destroying, stealing. They are losers. They cannot survive on their own. They need to steal. And when the lions show up, it's like, I'm not going to settle for the crumbs. I'm not going to go for the dead thing. I'm going for the fresh meat. So we are called to be lions. And the Bible, of course, backs it up, because Jesus Christ is the lion from the tribe of Judah. That's why you have the name. Lions do not bow before the hyenas. We eat them for breakfast.
The amazing thing is, and I had the observation at the time as well, shutting down schools, shutting down church, synagogues, shutting down religious gatherings, isolating you from your friends, isolating you from your family, and then terrorizing you psychologically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is exactly how they succeed in brainwashing people and breaking people. It's detach them from everything that is a core value in life: religion, friends, family, education, and be totally dependent on the government for guidance in all aspects: what side of the sidewalk you can walk in, what direction in the supermarket you can walk in, who you can talk to, when you can leave the house, what you wear on your face. And I realize that is how they drive the society into absolute aggregate madness. And then I don't have to understand what it was like to live under communist regimes, because you've seen it. Didn't go quite as far, but it went pretty damn far.
Well, I want you to know that's why people should pay attention to immigrants like us, because we have seen this. We have seen the tactics. We listen to the radio. We listen to the TV, the propaganda nonstop, the newspapers. You should pay attention to the people that escaped this hell, because we know what we're talking about. It's not like I read a book and it was a cool, book. No. It's painful. It's hell. You have no hope. That's why so many Polish people, Czechoslovakians, Germans, Russians turn into alcohol. Why do you think we have the biggest amount of fentanyl overdose in a history of our beloved Canada? Why? Because they did this. They turned people into a state of depression and hopelessness. Because when you isolate people from their loved ones, I could not have my brother, according to them, for a coffee. My brother that I hug and love. Who are you? Who do you think you are, you Nazis? Not only I'll have my brother, when the chief of police declared that I cannot have a family member, I called all my family members, my friends, and I did the biggest dinner I could fit in my home. I took a picture and I sent it to them. I said, come and get me. Come and get me. So they did get me. But I'm still standing. The story of Lions Do Not Bow, the story of Artur Pawlowski is not, look what the horrible things they have done to this man and his family. No. That's not the story. Look, that no matter what they threw at this guy and his family, he's still standing. Do you see me depressed, suicidal? Poor me. I don't know what to do. Actually, quite opposite. The more they throw at me, the more I'm flying higher and higher and higher. This book, just a few weeks ago, became the #1 with Melania, the wife of the president of the United States of America. When you go to, I think, Amazon.com, the recommendation is, Lions Do Not Bow and Melania. I'm thinking like, wow, I am in the same category right now with the wife of the president of the United States of America, and they ran out of stock. So we had to order more, tens of thousands of more copies. So go there. If you want to give a bloody nose to the Canadian totalitarian regime, buy the book that they are afraid of. Buy the book that they don't want you to see. Help us to fight them. I'm suing them. We are appealing it, and I will never stop fighting those people.
There are people out there who, as a matter of principle, don't want to support Amazon. And one of such person is in our locals community, ML Money. If you don't want to support Amazon, do you have a website that they can buy it directly from?
Yes, they can buy directly from our publisher. So
Okay.
I can send
Flip, flip,
you.
flip me that link afterwards. It'll certainly entice more people. But I do say, for goodness sake, you can compromise your morals in that sense. Buy it from Amazon and make it a #1 bestseller so that the world can see it. Because it's true. You're going to be funding the machine that is Amazon, but you're also going to be flipping two middle fingers to the government.
That's right. And also, I
Or-
want the people to know that we, with my wife and my family, we have decided that every sale of the book is going back to feed the homeless. So we're not taking the money and buying a palace, okay, or a private jet. Every single dollar we collectively as a family, we have decided to donate to the ministry, and we'll feed more people. If you don't believe me, just go to Artur Pawlowski Facebook page and see how many people we have on the lineups. Every single time we show up, the lineups are getting bigger, and the lineup is for hours and hours. So we feed people as they go, but the lineup is not getting shorter. There's a lot of hurting people right now on the streets of Calgary. So all of this will be donated back to the ministry to fight and to save lives, because and that's exactly what I wanted to do from the very beginning. I told the police, I told the mayors, I told the premier multiple times, leave me alone. I'm good at what I'm doing. I'm good at saving lives and feeding the poor. Let me do this. Forget about Artur Pawlowski. Don't hunt me down. You will never hear about me. There would not be Get Out video if you would just leave me alone. Leave me alone, and you will never hear about Artur Pawlowski. But they don't want to. So fine. If they don't want me if they don't want to leave me alone, let's give them a bloody nose as a hobby.
Artur, in our locals community, Nuns video says, I met my wife and I met Artur in Victoria at the We Unify conference. It is such an honor. He's a legend. I know I'm seeing what's going on in Canada from down here in terms of CSIS agents and the secret state, terrorizing its political dissidents. Since you've done all of this, I mean, you're out. Are there any pending charges? Are you getting visits from CSIS agents? Are you getting any other form of harassment from the government, threats, anomalous behavior?
Well, they are very careful with me at this moment, because you got to remember, I am suing them. And we are not just suing them for money. We are alleging conspiracy to commit crime. So our lawsuit, that's why they're so scared of this lawsuit, because our lawsuit is alleging that they conspired, those different government entities conspired against me, my family, and the church collectively. So we're tying, and we have the proof already. We're tying the Attorney General's office, so Prime Minister. We're tying with the premiers. We're tying with RCMP, which is like FBI in America. We're tying Chief of Police, Calgary Police uniform. We are tying with the Alberta Health Services. They all conspired together to destroy me. And that's what we are alleging. Right now, they're so scared that I received a phone call and they said, we will destroy you financially. We will drag this case for the next 10 years, and no one without the support of the people will be able to withstand such a harassment. Legal fees are in millions of dollars. So their tactic right now is stalling, throwing roadblocks. We had a meeting with them. They all they all came together, all those entities. They came with the lawyers. They hired the most expensive lawyers in the country. They're fighting us. So their tactic is, we will destroy you financially because you will not be able to fight us for the next 10 years. But you see, that's where the book comes in. If we can get the copies going viral, just like the Get Out video that was watched over 1 billion times within that weekend, if we can get this story out, all the money is going back to the same pile, and it will be allocated to the poor and to the lawyers. So together, and they are right, one man cannot do it. You know that. One man, it's impossible. One family cannot do it. One church cannot do it. But if we come together, thousands upon thousands of people, just like thousands upon thousands of people came to my rescue. Why do you think I am outside, not as a political prisoner in prison? Because tens of thousands of Americans and Canadians stood with me. There was an ongoing protest outside. So every day I was on the inside. The church was on the outside. My wife, my brother David, my children, they were fighting for my life, exposing, blasting speakers at the Riemann Center. All of that, it's in a book as well. how that came about. But because people came together collectively in solidarity, if you will, they've realized they're turning me into a martyr, and they released me. Now it's the next step, because you cannot talk about moving on. We cannot talk about justice without restitution. If I was your prime minister, if I was the president, those people would be charged. The key players would be charged with treason. I would charge them with treason, and I would do Nuremberg #2. But I'm not in power. So my power is my tongue. My power is the story. People deserve to know who did this to them and why they did it. They deserve to know. Canadians deserve to know who the players are.
Artur, it's not just that you're not a broken man. And I would say that you seem stronger than ever, but I do believe that this type of trauma leaves lingering scars that we might not see. A little bit of the good news, because I'm fishing around. I saw in the chat, someone said your kid recently got married. This is a beautiful photo. This is a beautiful family. And a number of people saying God can only give you what you can withstand, or God knows to give you only what you can withstand. Psychologically now, I know that you're... do you wake up and in night terrors thinking you're back in that cold prison? Do you have lingering trauma that materializes itself, or are you like people who have been chosen to go through what you've gone through, just cut from a different cloth?
No, that's not true. We are all the same. And my wife, which knows me the best, she says to me that I do have side effects. I would like to say to you that no, this whole thing did not affect me, but that's just simply not true. When they handcuffed me, they cut my skin all around it. I have a scar. I don't think you can see it.
I think I can see it right there if I'm looking at the right thing.
Right, it's right here.
Yep.
So what they did, they handcuffed me in such a brutal way. I've never been in more pain in my entire life, and I was a professional boxer and martial art expert. Okay, so I am accustomed with pain. What they did to me, they transferred me upside down like a piece of meat. They kept me in solitary concrete cells. They messed up my back so much that when a chiropractor, a friend of mine, came because I could not leave my house, as you remember, they put me on house arrest. He says, I've never seen more messed up back than yours in my entire career. So they cut. I told the nurses, I want pictures of what they did to my wrist, and they refused. They were laughing at me that somehow this was funny. So I would say to you, I'm no different than you. I am just a man that is trying to do his best to fight for the future, not just my future. You know, the older you get, the more strength or even willingness to do crazy things or to fight you have. But I am fighting because I have 3 children. You just saw my oldest son. I have 3 children. I have a younger son, and then I have a daughter. She's 15. My son Nathaniel was denied education in Canada. You know that?
Mm-hmm.
My son Nathaniel, he finished university and was denied access to the law school in Canada. We had to take him to Virginia. He's studying in Liberty University in Virginia because no Canadian government for 2 years would accept his application. This is a fight to the death, and this is the fight not just for you and me. We are fighting, at least I'm fighting. I'll speak for myself. I am fighting for the future of my children and their children, and what kind of a future we are going to pass to them, what kind of tomorrow they're going to have. That's what I'm fighting for. Because if we don't rise up while we still can, it will be over. They say, you're not afraid you will be assassinated. Listen, they tried to assassinate me so many times already. I have no choice but to fight them. And I call it's a head-on, Artur Pawlowski style, head-on collision. So they were telling me not to talk. I wrote a book. They were telling me not to do shows. I'm doing shows, as many as I can, because that's our weapon. Our weapon is the truth. You know, the truth is like a pillar that stands on its own. It doesn't need any support. You just preach the truth. That's it. But it's the lie. It's a manipulation, misinformation, disinformation, more lies. It's a house of lies. And it's coming, it's crumbling down. So if I had more people, if there were more people like Viva Frei, if there were more people like Artur Pawlowski, this would not even be an issue, because there is more of us. Let's show them, even with getting the book, let's show them. We, the people, are the voice. We the people. You're telling us I cannot read this book? I'm going to buy it for me. I'm going to buy it for my enemies so they will become my friends. I'm going to use it as a Christmas gift. I'm going to send it to the police. I'm going to send it to the chief. I'm going to give it to the judge. I'm going to give it to the doctor because I'm talking about the vaccines. I'm talking about all other things. Give the devil a bloody nose. You know, people ask me, why you are you? Well, you see, I always do opposite what evil people are asking me to do. So when they were telling me not to have a brother, I got the whole family. When they were telling me not to sing, I hired more singers. When they were telling us less songs, I told the team more songs. And I was live streaming all of that, showing people without the muzzle. We're not your dogs in a doghouse. When they were telling me no Christmas, I asked people to come to the biggest Christmas celebration in the country, and thousands of people showed up. When they were telling us no Lord's Supper, you know what I did? Every single time I said to the church, every single time we meet, we will have Lord's Supper. We will always do opposite. If they're telling you not to come, come. I had people during this time in my home every single day. I was actually getting tired of people. You know, so others during that time were thirsting. They were hungry for more people, right? I had enough people. I had people every day for dinner in my home, for coffee. I would have people knocking every single day. Can I just talk to you? Can I just visit for a few minutes? Every single day, I said to my wife, if this pandemic continues, I'm going to start hating people. Because I want to love people, but there's too many of them all the time. You see, you always do opposite. They told me to shut up. And I said to my lawyers, they're telling me to shut up, so I'm going to write a book about it. And I'm going to give people, because when I do shows like you, I can only talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that. I'll have to talk for days about what happened in prison. So here you've got every single day, you know, a day 37, day 38. What happened? You've got the visits, the judges' names, the crown, the bail hearings. You have stories of America tour. As you remember, I was coming from America and I was arrested on the tarmac, stepping out of the plane.
Yeah.
I was arrested for baptizing my daughter. So here's the picture of me and my brother David baptizing my daughter. You've got others. You've got you know, our arrest, my brother David, prayer agreement here. You've got the things I have been doing. You've got the Ohio State House of Representatives that put Canada on the watch list.
It is when you went, you did Tucker. I think that was the big one that really humiliated the Canadian government. I just want to show a little lesson of that I remembered from elementary school. In Hebrew, emet is true, and meshaker is lie. But I'll show you this. The one thing we were taught was that the truth, as you can see in Hebrew, it's got a nice solid base on which to stand. You can't push it over. But if you go to the way shaker is spelt, you'll see the difference. This is like one of my elementary school lessons. Shaker, you see, each piece is a precariously balanced. You know, it doesn't have a stable base. Forget those little three dots; those are vowels, and so it can easily roll over. And so the idea was that the truth is strong and stands on its own, and a lie will always fold over very easily. And the lion quote from Saint Augustine of Hippo: "The truth is like a lion; you don't have to defend it. Let it loose; it will defend itself." Is exactly what I was thinking when you were sharing the story of seeing lions in the Sahara.
But, you know, before you go, think about it, because I have asked myself this question many times. Why they are afraid of a Polish immigrant with a broken English, a small church? I'm the least in my father's house. Who am I? And then it hit me. You see, I grew up in hell, so I've seen this movie before, but also I saw the remedy, the solidarity movement, the power of the people. When the people finally say enough is enough, and God is in the middle of it. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget. You can Google it up. I'll never forget millions of Polish people on the streets of our cities in the 80s going to their knees with their giant, huge cross. And you know what they were singing? We want God. We want God. We want God. And in front of them were soldiers with machine guns pointed at them, you know, tanks, crazy images. but they kept singing, "We want God." And finally, God heard their prayers and he showed up, and it was over for the villains. We need to do the same thing. We must come together. I always say to the people, don't like me. I'm not running for a popularity contest. People say, I don't like your delivery. You know what? Yesterday, my daughter asked me, can we get a pizza? You know, we don't get pizzas very often. She says, will you get a pizza? And this guy showed up. I don't know who he is. I didn't like his delivery method, if you will. He just brought it and gave it to me. Who cares? I ordered pizza, not the delivery guy. The pizza is still good. And we had a great time together eating pizza and some hot wings. So don't like the delivery. Who cares? As long as it's delivered, the truth is delivered to you. So you don't have to like me, but I'm telling you, you will be greatly encouraged. It's a very easy read, and it has a lot of history and has a background, and you will understand not only what they did to me and my family, but also you will be able to see how I dealt with all this craziness, and how, in my opinion, how you should deal when something like this happens again. And I remember when I was being transferred from one cell to another, one unit to another, they all were dressed in their gowns, you know, their whole garbage on their faces. I was escorted by many of those people. I looked like the king in the castle. You know, I had no gowns, I had no mask. I was just a free man, in quote, in prison. I was freer in prison than those guards, looking like freaks, literally like freaks. So it's kind of funny, because as they were taking me from a unit to unit, the inmates would recognize me because I didn't have the face covering, and would say, that's Pastor Artur Pawlowski, that's Pastor Artur Pawlowski. And they would be just banging on the doors, free Pastor Art, free Pastor Art. And they said, if anything happens to this man, you will have a riot, you will have to watch your back. If any hair will fall from his head, watch your back. They signed a petition, inmates, they signed a petition and sent it to the director. And they said, if you don't release this man from isolation, you're going to have a problem. It's incredible. It's crazy. You know, I had so much respect from those criminals. They were criminals. So much respect from them, because they realized what was done to me is evil, is just corruption to the core. So instead of bowing to evil people, it reminds me of Haman and Mordecai. The crime of Mordecai in the eyes of Haman was that Mordecai refused to bow before Haman. Haman was a wicked, evil, bloody murderer, corrupted to the core, like the son of the Castro we have in Parliament right now. And Mordecai refused to bow. He says, I'm not bowing before this wicked, evil, corrupted mafia man. And because of it, Haman wanted not just to murder him, as you know the story in Esther in the Bible, but also he wanted to murder an entire nation. I want to be like Mordecai. I want to be, even alone, I want to be the one that says, no, I'm not bowing before the hyenas. I'm not bowing before wicked. I'm not bowing before your lies. I'm not going to participate in this show. You're wicked, evil people. And Artur Pawlowski will tell you the truth. You are evil. And that's what I did. That's pretty much the whole story. And they hated it. They are scared of those that are speaking the truth. That's the summary, because we know the truth. We have seen the truth. And the only thing that you have, the only power we have, is coming together, aligning ourselves with the truth. And the truth cannot and will never be defeated. Never.
Artur, you're not first of all, it's funny. The first introduction that many people had of you was the video. And when you understand that was not the starting point, but the culmination, your story trajectory makes a whole hell of a lot more sense, and B, I think a lot of us are internally we're screaming, get out, get out. We just were too polite to say it, and we politely walked our way into being locked in our homes under house arrest in the absence of any court order for 5 months. And so I think you did give a massive amount of inspiration once people actually understood what the hell was going on. Where can people? Ordinarily, I would still talk to you after the stream, but I'm going to continue live. But where can people find you, Artur?
Well, if you want to, first of all, support our mission, the mission is still on. We still feed thousands of people. And again, the Get Out video, my fight, the imprisonment, the COVID era, all of that stuff, it's kind of a side thing. I'm still doing what I love to do. My main focus of the ministry is to feed the poor. That's it. That's what we do. We feed the poor. We have a truckload every single day that it's coming or going somewhere. We have like 20 refrigerators. We have tons of food that we distribute on a regular basis. And that's what I love to do. I love to help people and give them messages of hope. If you want to be part of this, go to streetchurch.ca. Streetchurch.ca. I always say people, Artur Pawlowski is very predictable. I still do the same thing for the past 25 years. I still have the same wife and 3 children, and I still live in the same place. You Google my name and my home address shows up. My cell phone that I have it still when I was still in the business like 150 years ago. It's still the same number. I'm not hiding. I am who I am. Also, if you want to help me out with the legal fees, I mean, those are in the millions right now. It's crazy. But every little counts. You can get the book, or you can donate online as well, of course, streetchurch.ca, or you can get the books and you get something tangible as a gift for Christmas. And also every single penny that is going to come our way will go back into the fight, fighting for the lives of the people and fighting against this crooked, evil, wicked government. And it will enable me to keep exposing it. I'm going to write another book about the previous years, how this started, my first arrest, and what the Canadian government was doing. But that's later on. Now it's Lions Do Not Bow, Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. And if you don't want to participate in Amazon, it's all already on Indigo. Indigo as well is carrying this book. In America, you can get it on Barnes and Noble's bookstore. So it's circulating right now. Here is a kicker to end with. Number one, this book is a number one now in Oregon. Out of all the states, I don't know why, because I've included the story when we got attacked by Antifa. I don't know if you remember, Antifa sent me a message and sent a message to my handler in the States that was organizing my speaking tour that Artur Pawlowski is going to be shot, assassinated in Portland if he shows up for a prayer meeting. So that was a big commotion. And finally, they did show up. We were attacked. Flash bombs, other craziness. They took our speakers, threw them into the river. I was physically attacked. People were attacked. It was crazy. So I'm writing this story here, and it became an international story as well during that time. It was all over the news what the Antifa did to us. But it's out of the places. It's hot in Oregon. So I don't know if the Antifa members are interested what I have written about them, but it's kind of funny. God has a sense of humor, and you can be part of this. You can help us so we can help you. In the end of the day, think of me and Viva Frei like this. We are the shield between you and your family. Now they're coming after us. They're trying to destroy us. Help us to stand strong and tall, because if we are gone, you're next. My friends, they will never stop fighting you. You're next. We are warriors between you and them. Do not allow them to remove us from the fight. You may not like our style. You may not like the delivery, but we are delivering a good pizza, a very healthy one. It's called the truth. Help us keep fighting, because if we fall, you are next and your children are next.
Artur, you send me the links via DM. I'm going to put them all in the pinned comment. I've opened up the tabs in the back so I shouldn't forget. We shall stay in touch. Do you have any plans to come south of the border? Are you allowed to travel now?
Yeah, I'm actually got invited by the governor. I'm going to see the governor in just a week time. So I'm going, and I have a little speaking tour in different churches for a week and coming back. And then, of course, my big one is next year after the holidays. And I'm going to be traveling around the United States again with the book and sharing my story, because the story is quite simple. You must stand for what you believe in. You must rise up. You cannot be afraid. You got to remember the past 4 years, they blanketed the whole earth with a notion of fear and terror. They terrorized us globally. The remedy for that is courage. Courage is contagious. If Artur Pawlowski can do it with his funny English, that means anyone can. That's the message. If they unleashed hell on him and he's still standing strong, that means I can do it as well. That's the story. If I can do it, you have no excuse.
I don't even know if I want to ask the question, but I'm going to. Do you have? There should be an election coming up in 2025. There's discussion that they're postponing it by consent, so all these scoundrels can get their pensions. Jagmeet Singh, in particular.
Yeah.
Do you have any more faith in Poilievre Conservative Party than you do in the Liberals? Do you have faith in them, or do you not have faith in the future of Canada?
No, let me answer this way. No, there is always future. There's always hope. But we have to replace those players with good people. I call them the neighbors. You have to remember that for 2 years that we were attacked, destroyed, murdered, where was the Conservative Party? Where was Pierre Poilievre fighting for my rights, for my life, for my children? He was nowhere to be found. So do you really want a player like this? Because he can tell you, he can offer you the moon, but of course, it's just a political theater. So my eyes are focused on someone else. There is Grant Abraham with a new party that is rising up. There is still PPC with Maxime. If I was to vote, I would never vote for the people that did this to me. You got to remember, it was the Conservative government that locked me like an animal. And Pierre did not say a word. No one stood for us pastors. No one stood for us Albertans. No one stood for us Canadians when we were bleeding to death. 12 to 15 businesses were shut down in the city of Calgary every single day. Why was Pierre Poilievre? Where was this hero of Canada, this savior of Canada then? Those are, I'm disgusted by the political realm. Actually, I'm not going to give you details, but he is one of the major players in the book as well. If it comes to the political fixers, there was a meeting with Pierre Poilievre, Stephen Harper, and Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta and ex-Prime Minister, talking about me, and I've included that conversation in the book as well. There are very sinister things happening. I would embrace the Conservative Party again if they would come clean, if they would be recompensation, if they would be a public apology, if they would be, some sort of closure. Political prisoners are going to be released. People that were subjected to this tyranny are going to be recompensated. The businesses will be reopened. If that was the talk, then I would consider, okay, they're the good guys. They want to do the right thing. Look at what is happening with President Donald J. Trump. He's already talking about this. I was told by his inner circle that the first thing he's going to do, he's going to release the political prisoners. I can trust a man like that says, I'm going to fix the problem.
Mhm.
What they have broken, I'm going to be rebuilding. But I don't see that with Pierre, and I don't see that with the Conservative Party. Sadly, I don't see that anywhere. There is just a lot of talk, very little delivery. And even when they pass something beautiful, like in Alberta, about transgenderism and other things, there's always this back door open. For example, we'll protect your rights as parents unless the doctors disagree. That's not freedom. I don't want some bloody murdered doctor to decide about the life of my daughter. Are you kidding me? That's my daughter. That's my daughter. Back off, or you will face the wrath of Artur Pawlowski. You have never seen the wrath of Artur Pawlowski yet. Come to my house and you will see it if you want to hurt my family. I don't think you're coming out alive.
Artur, it is amazing. When you said you're going to a governor, which state are you going to?
Tennessee.
That's not too far. I could drive. When are you doing that?
So I'm going there for a week of 21. So just 2 weeks from now until 27th or 8th or 9th, something like this. I can send you the exact date, and I can tell you where I'm going to be if you're interested in coming. Oh, that would be great. I mean, the governor is coming with his wife specifically to see me. Actually, he says, I want the book signed, and he's going to listen to my story in the church. So the governor of Tennessee with his wife is coming to hear me speak in one of the local churches.
Artur, you're amazing. We will obviously keep in touch. If I don't put up a link that you wanted me to put up, just send it to me. I'm going to put up all the links in the pinned comment, and we shall do a follow-up, and we shall meet again at some point sooner than later.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Artur, God bless you, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All right. We're not going anywhere yet, people. What I want to do before we head on over to Rumble is get some of the tipped questions in Rumble, in YouTube, in Rumble, in locals. ML Money about not wanting to support Amazon. I'll get the link so you can buy it directly from the publisher. We got Jeanette Victoria over in locals who says, as someone who spent some time in the former Soviet prison in Kyiv, then spent some time in solitary confinement in the USA for a crime that doesn't even exist, I really can't tell the difference in the institutional totalitarianism that we now see in the West. I'll get to the rest afterwards, but Roostang says, Artur is correct. Canada is under major siege on many levels. Food choice, medical choice, religious choice, schooling, education, media choice. Canada appears to be on a path of total corporate education and judicial capture. Keep up the good fight, Artur. And before we go over to Rumble, which we're going to do, I'm going to give everyone the link to Rumble. Let's see the number. Get down off YouTube and come on over to Rumble. There was a Rumble rant from our good friends over at Biltong, Anton at Biltong. King of Biltong says, add some Biltong to your diet as a high-protein snack alternative packed with B12, iron, creatine, and more. Get yourself some at BiltongUSA.com, Viva 10 for 10% off. We have dried fruit. And Biltong says we stream Friday and Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Shit talking whilst cooking real food. Just so you know why he says whilst. He's South African. Shit talking whilst. I can't do the South African accent right now. We eventually set up a channel. Go to rumble.com or whatever the link is there. But you can follow that. And that is not a sponsor, but it is a sort of a de facto consistent Rumble ranter. You can't even super chat now lazily, says Niboopsh. Why did I didn't miss any super chats? No, I would have had them up here. John F. Kennedy says, Viva, what happened to the stream last night? I was on Rumble and you closed the stream at 8. I'm an idiot, John F. Kennedy. What ended up happening is Studio has a button that you click and it says going over to Rumble and Locals. Or it has a second button that says locals only, and I hit the wrong button, and there's no undo feature yet in the 30 seconds that you have while you see you're shut down an entire stream. So I've asked the team at Studio to have an undo button for these little fat fingers so that if I do that again, I can undo it or at least add the Rumble back. So the second part of yesterday's stream is in a second stream on Rumble. But speaking of not being a sponsor, and the last, it is one of our sponsors, and it's another Rumble partner and a product that we all, if you have a pet, you're going to need it and you're going to love it. And it's a Rumble parallel partner economy. Do you know what's in your dog's treats? Where is my dog? Here, hold on a second. What's that? Oh, he's sleeping. When he wakes up, I'll pick him up. Do you know what's in your dog treats, people? The smell alone should make you wonder. They're filled with artificial colors, cancer-causing preservatives, and fillers, items that have no business in your dog healthy food. That's why Positive's Superfood Waffles, I'm putting a little H in the waffle, are different, made with real simple ingredients under 6 per recipe, 0 artificial colors, preservatives, or flavors. Each waffle combines goat's milk, oats, fruits, veggies that support your dog's health without questionable additives linked to issues like heart disease and kidney problems. Need a meal upgrade? Try the freeze-dried bison topper, pure bison organs to support healthy skin and muscle growth. It's like the ribeye of the dog world. Go to positive.com, PAWSITIVE.com. Promo code Viva gets you 15% off. Because if you're like me, you want your dog to stay happy, healthy, and around for as long as possible, even if they are both paralyzed and blind. You love them and you want to take care of them. Positive.com, promo code Viva for 15% off. Now get your heinies on over to Rumble because we're going to do a little bit of the American stuff. Now we're going back to America, people. And I do also want to, I want to thank someone here. Hold on one second. Let me see how far up I can scroll. Keep going. Scroll. Oh, maybe the person decided to leave. Oh, come on. I've been waiting the whole time to thank the troll for the activity in the chat. I love people who think that they're trolling me and then don't realize that by trolling, you are actually creating engagement in the chat and thus making the channel even more. If you really secretly love the channel, please troll. troll away because it's actually good for engagement. I was the first guy that made you say homo and explain what it is, and now I've forgotten what it is. I'm going to go back and say proper pronunciation. Homo meaning may refer to prison slang for child choma. So that's why I was saying and it's cho. Thank you, Niboosh. We're all smarter. Here he is, Dingleberry. I don't care why he left. He left. He should shut the hell up about Canada right now. This man must be related to Justin Trudeau, telling other people what to do with their bodies and their mouths. Congratulations, Dingleberry. Thank you for the engagement. Welcome to the channel. Even the trolls are welcome. But now we're going over to Rumble. So come on over to Rumble, ending on CommieTube, and